All right, folks, I have 6 o'clock. I call this November 17th regular board meeting to order. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Lenny, could you please take the roll?
Yeah. Tammy Fournier. Here. David Handyside.
Here.
Lori Hoffman. Here. Linda Oberbrunner. Here. Sam Awiniel.
Here.
Carl Schwarzy.
Here.
Dan Voltner.
Here.
Craig Wortman.
Here.
Julaine Appling.
Here.
Excellent. All right. That brings us to the first of 2 opportunities for public input. The Board of Education will be limiting public comment speakers to 3 minutes per person to speak. We also ask that district residents are allowed to speak first. If time allows, non-residents will be allowed to speak. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational matters and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters. The period of public input that is allowed by the board is a privilege that the board extends to receive feedback during the business meeting of the board held in public. The board expects that the public model civility and decorum at all times. This means that people who heckle, clap, or are disruptive to the proceedings of the board will be asked to leave the premises. The board reiterates that this is a business meeting of the board held in public. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to the staff or other participants. Participants shall address only topics within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. The presiding officer may warn, interrupt, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. The board president may request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. The board president may request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person when that person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Please fill out the comment card and state your name and address for the record as well. Is there anybody that wishes to participate in public input at this time? Okay. Nobody's online. Nobody wants to engage in public input. All right. Well, we'll be moving ahead to announcements, recognition, and communications. Do we have a WHS school board representative?
Not today.
Okay. Well, then that brings us to the Germany Munich. What's it? The Heringen trip proposal.
So first I would like to Kim Schneider, the German teacher at Watertown High School. And first I'd like to thank the board for the approval of the trip for 2025. Students went in June, had a good time. One student is applying for a scholarship to go back to study. So I'm very excited about the impact that that trip had. And I'm always optimistic about the impact that a future trip could have. So this trip is pretty much the same trip that we've been doing. We spend a week in Munich and doing day trips outside of Munich. We visit Salzburg and we visit some castles and we visit the concentration camp memorial in Dachau, as well as the White Rose Museum, White Rose Memorial, to recognize that there was resistance to what happened during World War II as well. Then we visit our host families in Heringen, and I'm very excited about this particular trip because when the Germans come in 2026, it marks the 20th anniversary of our partnership. So this is going to be a big year with hopefully some big celebrations coming when the Germans are here, and probably when we're over there too, just lots of celebration of friendship. So there's been a lot of families that have participated in this over the years. there any questions at all?
How come you aren't stopping at the Hofbrau house?
Well, we do unofficially, but of course, students aren't allowed to drink alcohol on their trips. So we kind of keep places that serve the alcohol in a big way,
They
like the
go up to
Hofbräu
the
House.
third floor and they got something
Yeah.
to eat.
Yep, absolutely. And we have done that in the past, but like I said, we try to keep the places that are very beer oriented off to the side a little bit. We do visit, it's part of our bike tour when we go through Munich. So we see it.
In what month are the people coming from Germany here?
It should be October. I looked at their calendar. They have to come during their fall break. And so it'll probably be early October of 26.
It's not a question, but I know someone who participated in the trip last year and also hosted a family here, and one of the host families here. I thought it was a fabulous opportunity.
Thanks.
The only thing I asked the individual, did you practice your German? And the answer was, well, I didn't really, very shamefacedly. And I have some background in German. I said, that's a shame. You missed a huge opportunity. But thank you for putting a trip like this together. I think it gives them a really unique view of a country like Germany when they actually get to live with these host families. It's far different from just getting on a bus, taking a tour, or even bike tours and things like that. So thank you for all the work that goes into this. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, one of the unique things about my trip is not only do we stay with the host families, which is a really, I wouldn't probably run a trip that didn't involve a host family stay because families are really the conduit of culture and the opportunity to speak. We are at a little disadvantage there because the Germans come here first. They've had 7 years of English and our kids have had up to 3 by the time that they get here. So then they get to know each other in English and then it's really hard to switch into German. But there was something I was going to add to oh yes, the trains. So besides the host family, I don't have the kids on a big tour bus. So we take public transportation and that's partly to keep costs down. I usually have a smaller group and a tour bus would be very expensive, but it's also because that is also a way for the kids to get to know the culture. And my goal is by the time they leave, they could take their parents back and show them around. And that is often the case. Most of the time the kids say, yep, I could do this. So very exciting.
You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Generous donations.
Yeah, we've got a number of generous donations again to discuss this month. Skills USA, Ryan's Auto Care for $200. Skills USA, Richter Heating and Air Conditioning for $500. Skills USA, $750 from Create-A-Pack Foods. Skills USA, Big Bear Tire, $500. For Skills USA, Hayes Family Auto, $100. Skills USA, Klecker Heating and Air Conditioning, $100. Skills USA, United Electric, $300. Jerry Hepp Excavating, Skills USA, $500. Skills USA, Carew Heating and Air Conditioning, $250. Skills USA, Thermotech Mechanical Insulation, $1,000. River City Truck Repair LLC, $250 for Skills USA. And Skills USA Kusel Equipment, $1,250. And Skills USA JWR Inc., $100. So those will make their way around the table and back. And I want to again thank all of our businesses for leaning in and helping to donate towards a number of wonderful programs here at our school district. And you see a number of them going to Skills USA.
So was there a special push to raise this money for Skills USA or was there a special fundraiser or something?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's definitely a reach out from Skills USA to businesses and to connect. But that's not always the case either. But generally this time of year, Skills USA does say, hey, remember us if you want to do your donations, right? But you will see a number of programs, have people who donate. to them. So it just happens that this time of year, it's usually Skills USA because they do a reach out to local businesses who have donated in the past. It's just a thank you again and a reminder letter that we're always here for you. And that seems to work for them.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your generous support, all of the donors. Next order of business would be the state report card.
We'll kick that over to Jason and team. So.
Yes, thank you. We always want to start with gratitude, so I want to thank the members of the board for your commitment to a student-driven and data-informed culture. Your leadership matters. I also want to thank Chris Malloy and Building Leaders. What we see here on the screen is a document that has been collaborated around by Chris and Building Leaders, and Chris and I will be walking through this document tonight. I think it's important to note that this report card, the dashboard, is now available to our public as of last week. And this data that we're going to look at tonight is really part of that dashboard. But I think it's important to note that the student raw data was really available in the summer. And our building leaders and their leadership teams dug into that data this summer. And that really is reflected in their building goals that are being worked through this year. And so those goals continue to guide our buildings, really to positively impact learning and teaching in every building. I think it's also always important to note that the data that we look at is a reflection of humans, right? There are numbers on the chart, but these are humans. And this is representative of hard work from our students, our staff, our leaders, and our parents. And so I just always want to remind us that data is really reflective of people. We're really ready to, Chris and I will talk about the data, and we're ready to answer any questions that you may have about trends in the data and the data itself. If there are questions specific to buildings, Chris and I can capture those questions and work with building leaders to get those questions answered and funnel those to the board. I think it's also an exciting reminder that this month is really month 2 of the data systems that Chris and I have put together. And what that means, just as a reminder, is that this data was looked at by our director team. This data, same data, was looked at a cabinet meeting with principals and supervisors and coordinators. Last week, the same data was looked at by members of our newly formed district data team. And will be looked at the building level all the way down to the classroom level in the coming weeks. And so this cycle is now in place and will be replicated each month. Just a reminder, we're going to dig into this more, but our report cards are really made up by 4 pieces. One is achievement, second is growth, and we have target group outcomes, and then on track to graduation. We're going to discuss each of these components to help everyone understand and also see how those pieces change by building and what makes it change. The state report cards were recalibrated last year based on state standards. And this calibration has had an impact on our achievement scores, not just ours, but across the state. And I think it's important to note those 2 facts, but it also is important to note that looking at data longitudinally is really difficult because of those changes, right? So we're really looking at data the last 2 years. I think it's also important to note that Chris and I talk about triangulating data. And so just a reminder that the data that comes through our report card comes from Forward Exam and then the ACT suite at the high school. But this is just one of many data sets that we use to celebrate the hard work of folks, to celebrate the successes, but also identify where there's areas to grow. And this is just one of many data sets. And I think with that, we are ready to share some data. We really are planning for about 10 minutes of sharing and then some time for question and answer, knowing that we're always willing to connect individually or work to come back. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris Malloy.
Thank you. So as you look at the document, at the top, there's resources so that anyone that wanted to could look at the district report card, and then there's the link so you can look up each building. It would be, I think, overwhelming to look at all of those pages together. I think we'd be here for several hours. So the idea then was for me to summarize each of the priority areas for the district and then each of the buildings for us to share. I have 3 years of data here, as Jason mentioned, not super comparable, but I didn't want to give you 1 year of data and not have you have any point of reference if that was higher or lower, the same as what we've been seeing in the past. So we decided to include the 3 years, even with the changes made. So starting at the district level, you'll see that they earned a 3-star rating this year of meets expectations. This is out of a 5-star possible score that students or schools can earn. If you look at that 3-star rating is the same as they've had for the last few years. And then below the score, I have the 4 priority areas and showing you the score for those for each of the last 3 years, as well as a reflection of what made that score go up or down this year for you so that you didn't have to dig into all of the pieces of each of the report cards yourselves, although you're more than welcome to them if you want. Also wanted to share that when we look at these 4 priority areas, they are weighted differently for each district in the state and even within our schools in our district based on the percentage of students that are economically disadvantaged. So if you compare 2 of our Watertown schools, they will have different weights on the achievement and the growth based on what percent of their kids are economically disadvantaged. So very hard to compare 2 schools to each other because they're not going to be weighted the same or scored the same or have the same kind of students. So if we look at the first priority area we have, it is achievement. And the score in this area is going to come from those state tests that they take in the spring, the forward, the pre-ACT, ACT, and DLM. And that testing is done each year. And you can see that as a district, we did have an increase in that score. But with the changes in the test, we don't know if that's really a true increase, right? The state changed the test, and then the report cards changed how they were being graded this summer as well. So we look at that and we say it's nice that it went up, but the state went up as well. So we can't really see that as necessarily something that we should be celebrating at this point. We really need another year or 2 of data to see what those scores look like for that. The second priority area is going to be growth. This one has not changed. This is going to measure our testing students from last year's scores to this year's scores and how much those scores went up. And then they will get a growth score based on that. Notably, we can see that that score has gone down for the last 2 years in our district and an area of concern for several of our buildings. And you'll see that their action plans are addressing that in the buildings that are seeing that decrease. Our next priority area would be our target group. At the end of each year after our tests are given, they identify the lowest 25% of scoring students and they become your target group. And then we get a score that looks at that target group's achievement scores, their growth scores, their attendance, and we get a score based on how well those students do that following year after they're identified. It's really measuring how well we serve those students that have already shown us that they are struggling in our schools. And then the final area is our on track, which is going to measure how successful students are at some of our educational milestones. So this would be, do they graduate? What is our graduation rate? Our attendance rates in our buildings? And then 3rd grade ELA and 8th grade math scores. These are identified by the state, and then we try to look at those a little bit extra based on that. So below the priority areas in the chart there, you will see have the now what. The now what section was filled in for the district by our central office staff and then by the building principals once we get to the specific building sections. When we look at this, I want to remind you that the data is not new to the board. It is new to the board and the community, but is not new to the district leaders. The district and building leaders have had these test results all summer to work on. And what you see in the now what were the goals that they made during their action planning. And at the district level, I'd like to highlight the review and revise the year 2 strategic plan strategies. This last July, I was here, we discussed the strategic plan and we looked at that 3rd grade ELA and that 8th grade math, and we readjusted some plans within our buildings and our district based on those. So I'm going to have you turn the page now, and we're going to look at our first school. I organized the schools alphabetically, so you'll see Douglas is our first school that we are looking at. And I'm going to go through these a little bit more quickly now that I've given our definitions and kind of give you our highlights within each building, in my opinion. So Douglas, for us, if you look at, has a 4-star exceeds expectation. That is its 3rd year in a row with that rating that we have on this chart. They have a decrease in the math score, which I just wanted to highlight because that you are going to see is a common theme in our elementary schools. It was year 1 of the Bridges math curriculum. And so you will see in the reflections in the now what for several different buildings they are looking at. Those scores were lower with the new curriculum, and how can we address the new curriculums, what we didn't do in the new curriculum that we can do better this next year. So wanted to point that out, that you see it here, but in many buildings. The second thing with Douglas is the increase in the growth scores for Douglas, noticing that that has gone up and up and up for the last couple of years. It was a large celebration for them to see those because that happened in both math and ELA. We have several things in the now what, but I would highlight the second one for them. For me, they are really working with and looking at data on a regular basis for their school learning objective. They're focusing on reading and math fluency, and they're monthly collecting that data within their school, each grade level, to see where their oral reading fluency and their math computation fluency is, and trying to find students that are maybe not growing at the rate that they would like them to be, giving them the extra supports that are needed. At this point, I'm going to have Jason take over for the next couple schools.
Thank you very much. Next is eCampus, and again, I'll highlight a few things similar to what Chris has done for Douglas. 2 things that are really important for eCampus is you'll see some grayed out boxes there. This is year 2 of a traditional report card for eCampus. Prior to 2 years ago, there was an alternative report card based on number of enrollment. And that's also connected to where you see NA there. There's small numbers in certain subgroups, and so we won't get a score there, and you'll see that in a couple other buildings as well. And so beyond that, you'll see some increases there, but meets few expectations. The action items, the now what's, are really targeted around 2 things. One is increasing engagement and attendance. And the second is really refining some of the ELA and math skill development through a variety of strategies. I'm going to move on to Endeavor. Again, that NA there is due to a number of students, a small number of students in certain subgroups. Endeavor has a 75, which exceeds expectations, 4 stars out of 5. We saw a little decrease there in achievement, and really connected to math, as Chris mentioned, that you'll see in some other buildings. Some celebrations and growth. And then the now what's are really focused on that math piece. I think before I turn it over to Chris, I think it's important to note that both eCampus and Endeavor have created those dashboards that we talked about at services, really focused on a couple of things, engagement, academics, and life readiness. And that data is being collected at the end of each try. We'll bring that to our Board of Governance for Endeavor and eCampus, and also to Ed Services, so we can look at that data more regularly. Turn it back over to Chris.
Thank you. So next we are looking at LEAP. LEAP is a smaller population as well, so you will see that they do not have growth or target group scores, so their report card is just made up of their achievement and on track. They are 4 stars, exceeds expectations. If you look, they did have a decrease in their math scores, as we had, and then they also had a decrease in the on track. They had enough students to get a 3rd grade ELA score for the first time in the last couple of years, and that number was a little bit lower than their attendance and chronic absenteeism, so it put that overall score down in that area. When I look at their now what, I really noticed that they are going to address the math achievement in the Bridges curriculum. They are one of the buildings that really identified it as we did not see what we wanted in those scores, so let's look at the curriculum, let's look at what we did well and what we maybe can improve on. Our next building is Lincoln. Lincoln has a 3-star rating of meets expectations, which is a decline from the year before where they were at exceeds expectations. They did have an increase in those achievement scores, as we mentioned, many of the schools did because of the state's readjustment possibly, but their growth score is really where they had a decline in their scores overall on the report card. I feel like that it's great that the first bullet point for their now what was to prioritize the targeted interventions to improve their student growth in ELA and math through their differentiation in their instruction and their small group support. So they realized that that growth is not where they need it to be and really look into how they can adjust it. RMS is our next building. RMS has a 3-star rating of meets expectations. They did have a large increase in their achievement scores in both ELA and math, but they did continue to see a decrease in their growth scores. One of the things that we are allowed to do is we get to see those individual scores from the students, and so they really dug into that a little bit more beyond just the overall, but which groups in their building they could identify that they could give some extra support to. And the growth and the achievement scores, they really felt like their students with disabilities needed some extra support in their building. So they're now the first one is that they're going to work with CESA 2, and they have been in contact and working with them already on increasing their achievement with their students with disabilities. And they're specifically looking at ELA. When they dug in a little bit deeper, that was where they felt like they really could use some extra support for those students to help them in both their achievement and their growth to be successful moving forward. Next page, we are at STRS. STRS is at a 4-star exceeds expectations. That is an increase from their meets expectations previously. Largely contributed to their growth score increase. So as we mentioned at the beginning, we did have a decrease in the growth overall as a district, but we do have some buildings that are showing increases there. They had specifically a very large increase in their growth scores for the math area on the report card. Their second bullet point I thought was one that really talked to the work that is done during the summer. They're utilizing and prioritizing the district pacing guides in both literacy and math. Upon seeing the scores last summer, elementary teachers immediately said, we are not happy with these. What are we going to do? And Jenny and Jason worked together, and they brought someone in to meet with several different representatives from different grade levels and different buildings from our elementary schools to work on common pacing guides for the math, because one of the things that we found is that teachers were struggling to get through all of the curriculum during the school year with it being new to them. So some guidance on you need to get this done in this amount of time to make sure that we can get the curriculum covered by the end of the school year. So they did that for every grade level for the Bridges curriculum this summer, and STRS mentioned that they're really working to make sure that they're staying on track in their buildings with that new curriculum. Our next building is Webster. Webster is 3 stars and meets expectations. I do want to say that they have the highest achievement score. It is a decrease for them, but that 80.8 is the highest in the district. It's weighted a little bit lower than their growth score, and their growth is the one that they really are working towards trying to figure out how they can increase that. You'll notice both their second and the third bullet point. Their second one is they want to really focus on that target group of students. They feel like if they work with the students that are struggling the most and grow them, everyone else will be more successful with those strategies as well. They also talked about in that third bullet point, working with that math curriculum and really trying to find ways to be more successful with it moving forward. Our final building is the high school, when we get to the last page. It is a 3 stars meets expectations. You'll see that they had an increase in scores in all 4 areas last year, so that was something that they felt was a celebration for them. They have been working very hard on focusing on their student engagement and increasing attendance, and you can see that in their now what they are looking to do. I know I shared a lot just now. I did it rather quickly to get through it so that we could get through all of the different buildings, and I appreciate your patience through that. I think the report cards I want to remind us are one of our valuable data points. They give us some information, but sometimes it's a struggle to find the pieces that help us and figure out where we need to go forward. with those and what else we need to look into a little bit more. There's a lot of hard work that our teachers and our support staff, our administrators are doing to address those things. And at this point in time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
I know I asked you this last year, but do you feel like we've caught up from COVID?
No, I feel like there's I think that there's kids that are struggling. I think they're coming to us behind. Even like when we get them in kindergarten, they weren't the same as what we had years ago. So, I mean, I don't know how we measure that or prove that, you know, but I think that there are some gaps in the kids. I think our scores have gone up, but I think that, you know, we're in certain areas, in certain places, like you can say, but then we see things that we feel like are still a result of COVID for some kids. So I don't know.
And could you explain why household income matters?
What?
Household income?
Yeah, so the state has decided that they want to be able to compare different districts and if you're economically disadvantaged, we know that it makes it so that we see lower achievement scores for those students. So if you have a district that has very few or no students that are economically disadvantaged, and we give them a report card one way, and then we have a district that has a high level of students that are economically disadvantaged, we're not comparing apples to apples, right? So they are trying to equalize that by saying we are going to make growth count more than achievement if you have a large population of students that are economically disadvantaged and maybe are coming to you, not always, right, but maybe coming to you with more needs and are a little bit further behind. So they're trying to, I don't think it's a perfect system, to be fair and honest. Like, I don't know that it works perfectly, but I think it's the state's attempt to make it so that we can have a report card that fits all of the diverse school districts we have in our state.
I think for me, what's important to remember is that every school culture is different, right? Every school is unique in their population and the things that they can celebrate and the things that there are areas to grow. And that's part of the conversation that we have with each of our buildings. So.
Is the economically disadvantaged determined by their participation in free or reduced lunch programs or breakfast lunch programs?
When we switched from everyday math to Bridges math, what kind of dip in performance in test scores did we predict?
I don't know if I did not spend any time predicting any dips. I think the research is clear that when you have a pretty substantial implementation of a new resource, you know, when I say substantial, we're talking about 5+ buildings impacting that number of students and that number of staff, that you can expect an implementation dip. But I did not spend any time thinking about the dip we would expect.
Do we know what to expect in the future? How long this dip is going to last?
No, I think what we see is that between 1 and 3 years is typically an implementation dip. And I think some of the pieces that Chris talked about, and certainly Jenny can help us, but the things that are continuing at the classroom level, at the building level, and district level as it relates to looking at data, as it relates to providing professional development, as it relates to providing some commonized pacing guides, all those things are in place for a number of reasons. First is that we want our students all to be achieving at a high level and growing at a high level, but it's also to lessen that dip, right? And so,
So I wasn't here when they bought Bridges Math. Do we know what was the motivation for changing from everyday math to Bridges Math? Can you give me a little history and a little context?
Yeah, good question. When we did a K-12 math analysis, and that was, 3 years ago now, we found that at every level, we weren't necessarily
teaching at the rigor that was required of the standards, and that some of the standards for mathematical practice weren't being implemented with the set of materials that we had K-12. We analyzed several different sets of materials, and Bridges sort of rose to the top after a site visit and after a short use of those materials. We had gone to, oh gosh, now I can't even remember where we went to see it, Mount Horeb, I believe, to see it in action. And I think there was just a pretty clear that was the set of materials that we wanted to move to. When we embarked on it, we weren't necessarily sure that we would move away from everyday math, but at the time, it did seem that Bridges was the superior choice for our students. I appreciate highlighting the pieces that our elementary buildings are doing at this time to help year 2 of implementation. One glimpse into the data that I appreciated that Chris found was that we did have one teacher at every grade level who had access to the materials a year before everyone else. And what we found is those teachers individually, like the scores of those students did grow in when that teacher was the second year of the implementation. With the idea that once you've been through it, you understand like the beginning, middle, end, what pieces to emphasize, which pieces you don't necessarily need to spend as much time on. To Chris's point, we found that it can be a little bit overwhelming in the first year, and that perhaps our teachers didn't make it all the way through the curriculum, and so that's part of the pacing guide piece as well. We are hoping to continue to work with the consultant who came in over the summer to help support in the individual buildings, to make sure that our teachers have the opportunity to understand the materials and what are the pieces to emphasize and which are the pieces maybe we don't need to spend as much time on to support with that too. But it is definitely something that we are closely monitoring. We have seen quite a bit of success in math over the years at the elementary level, and so just wanted to make sure that we are providing those same pieces as well.
Are we still using both everyday math and Bridges, or what are we doing?
No, we are only using Bridges at this point. And Bridges has 2 pieces to it. Number Corner, which is a shorter time during the day, about 20 minutes, and it's sort of based on some like calendar patterning pieces, and then 60 minutes of like the Bridges instructional time in the classroom as well. And so that's what we're using at the elementary level at this point.
I'll also share that, I mentioned that we're in month 2 of our district data team. And that is a teacher or at least one teacher from every building that is graduated. Last month in October, we brought some longitudinal data and cohort data to look at, and folks saw that dip, right? And one of the very teachers that Jenny mentioned that piloted for 2 years now, or is in their 3rd year, said, hey, I have some ideas. So Chris went to visit and picked the brain and has now brought that data to Jenny, right? And so there's the loop, right? We're continuous improvement and now a monthly endeavor.
I don't think that anyone is at this point saying Bridges is not the right choice. It's just that we need to figure out how to do Bridges better. We've learned from some things and we hope to continue to grow in those, and we'll see what the data says moving forward.
I guess my particular question would be, Bradwin, just a second here.
You couldn't see it behind the podium.
What kind of professional development did we invest in when it comes to Bridges, so that teachers are getting the support that they need for the implementation of Bridges? And do we need to look at seriously trying to provide more professional development in the rollout of Bridges?
Love that. We did contract with CISA to provide ongoing coaching last year during the school year. We also worked with Bridges to do the introductory professional development before the school year started. I think a factor within our elementary schools is, as you remember, Act 20 happened, and we had a very intensive teacher training around Act 20 happening at the same time, along with the literacy adoption as well. And so we have certainly provided a lot for our elementary teachers to be focused on. Part of me wonders about the challenges for our teachers in implementing each of those things, in addition to some different assessment pieces with Ames Web as well. And so our elementary teachers have a lot on their plate. So I appreciate your point about what are we doing to support them in the implementation of that as well. So thank you.
Brad?
I was just gonna throw in, talking to teachers, especially like in the upper elementary, like 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, where they take the forward test. They're excited to get kids in the coming years that have been taught with Bridges before they get to them, because when we just started last year, we dropped in with everybody, just so kids in 5th grade had everyday math in 4th grade, and all of a sudden they got Bridges. So they're excited to get this rolling where they get kids every year that have already had Bridges in 3rd grade and 4th grade, and then they come to 5th grade. So we really think that that will get going too.
On that as well, Brad. My understanding is it takes at least 1 to 3 years to get a hold of these new things that you're putting in. Sounds good, and I like the fact that you asked the right question about getting help and producing that. And I think when you get past or get to that 3rd year, you should be seeing something where the pacing is now set in the proper way, and you can figure out how you get this and what's prioritized. Because that's always a prioritizing thing is important. So you had to give it some time. You're right on track, I think.
Can we address the principals? I'm interested in knowing with you all as building principals, whether with your ear to the ground with your teachers on a day-to-day basis, are you picking up from your teachers this year that Bridges is going more smoothly, that they are more comfortable with it, that they have had the adequate training, or are you finding places where we still need to fill in, where we need to provide more support for them in order for them to, as I agree with Dave, I think it takes 1 to 3 years for everybody to kind of get up to speed with it. But this is the 2nd year for the vast majority of them on that. So is there anything that you can help us with on that? I'll take any one of the 4 or 5 of you here. Emily,
I do think that the teachers are feeling more comfortable knowing the pace. They appreciate the pacing guide, and also just knowing how long it takes to give a math test this way, or some part of what they do during Bridges is something called workplaces. So the kids are learning through like games and playing, and the kids are more familiar with playing games and just the format of the game. So there's just a lot of routines that were new and different that teachers now know and the kids now know. So I think that they're feeling more comfortable and confident, and just hearing them talk about, oh, remember last year when we did this, and I think we saw some growth. I guess I know of a grade level that saw solid growth, but they had a teacher who had used the material for a year and was able to help, like, oh yeah, this, we have to stay on pace, it's important. So I think they're feeling more confident and comfortable and just knowing what comes next. Otherwise, you turn to the next year and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a whole new thing and new terminology, new vocabulary that no one was familiar with. So I think there's still areas that they're hoping to learn more from, like Jenny shared, regarding like differentiation and for kids who haven't gotten the other assessment, and just we've had a lot of support and trying to brainstorm ways to continue to support them. So
the use of
worked through a little self-assessment Bridges tool at a staff meeting, and I think they were looking at interventions for kids that maybe don't get it at the same pace as some other kids. There's an area that they want a little more talk and support and looking at that came out of our self-assessment tool. And that's difficult when you're using a new curriculum too, to figure that out.
Evaluation is going to change sometimes. It's important to know how much you need to do those formative evaluations as you're going. And that's going to be part of the learning as well, because that helps you know whether you're accomplishing what you're accomplishing before you get to that summative part.
The teams that work together put in which are the assessments and textbooks we're all going to be doing.
Mhm.
So it was the map of the unit and then which pieces like that are we all going to use and built-in days for those types of things and timing. So it was
Mhm.
some different days for data so they could use the assessments they're doing to like reteach and pre-teach and all those things.
Good. Good. Yeah, it's great.
When it comes to the state report cards and the data that we see in that, are there benchmarks that we can utilize there that we can say, this is our goal for next year, and it's a lofty goal, and when we hit that goal, we're going to throw a party. I mean, that's really where I'd like to get to as district,
I think that the strategic plan has goals for like the 3rd grade reading and the 8th grade math. We didn't meet them this year. We also, part of the report card that it doesn't have is count in the score, and the back is like participation in like dual enrollment and our kids that are earning that industry recognized credentials. So there's pieces of this report card that we used in the strategic plan to set our goals, right? There's nuggets in there that were like, these are things we think are important. Everyone should be able to read in 3rd grade, right? Our goal is not where we want to end up. Like, we're not going to go from, 50% to 100% proficient in a year. So our hope is that each year we can set the goal a little higher. And I would send us back to the strategic plan and what goals we set in that for next year to throw our party when we meet them all.
right? Linda.
Do you feel, and I'm not sure to ask you to or the principals, that parental engagement has also increased as far as the math or not yet?
I would not know.
You don't, I don't think
I
they
can
know that.
start, I believe, and principals, please help me, but what I think I've seen in the last couple of years is the traditional family engagement nights have transformed into opportunities for parents to learn about a resource and engage in the very activities that their children engage in. I think that is the power when the parents understand what we're asking of students. They can, and in some cases, take those very things home and do the same work at home with students. Joy, anything else from the team that would add?
I would echo that, with Bridges, there are home connections that go home, but we really don't have control over the home environment and the population that we represent ensures. A lot of our families are working hard every day and they don't necessarily have the time or the capacity to support in the way that I know that all parents want to. So we just held our first family learning night, and I'll thank Emily. She really, and we modeled that after Douglas. She provided a lot of assistance in getting that organized. And so teachers were able to share very briefly in concrete terms the major concepts that were being taught that grade level that year. But also we ended the evening and actually received a lot of good feedback from both families and teachers that the part they enjoyed the most was the goal setting. And so they were provided with a bank of potential goals in the area of literacy, but also potential goals in the area of math and just overall learning. And so they got a list of ways of tangible ways that they can go home and work on math at home. I think for us, fact fluency is just such a huge need in our district, but I have a 5th grade daughter who goes to a different district and we get those flashcards out. And so these are just tangible, easy ways for families to engage, like recipes, counting coins, getting engaged at the grocery store. So again, I think sitting down, I am a smart, intelligent person, but sitting down with 5th grade homework is terrifying sometimes. But these are real ways that I know I'm confident in and I can work with my daughter at home. And I think that was a big success for us with our family learning night, just to echo that and getting our families engaged. Every family had to write out a goal and it was directly instructed, take this home and put it in a visible place, whatever is visible to you. We won't necessarily know the impact of that, but the immediate feedback we received that night was overall positive. So, thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. You guys are able to put stuff like that. That's creative. I like that.
So, Janet, can I have a question? What really spoke to you the most when you went to that place and observed how they were using bridges? What jumped out at you?
Honestly, I think it was the student discourse, the conversations that students were having about math. Like I remember being in like a kindergarten classroom and being like, holy smokes, listen to these guys talk. And it was like, it was later in spring. And so they had, been through the routines and the practices. I think that was something that was like a huge aha moment for our teachers. And then I know in talking with our teachers, as I spoke, there's Number Corner and then there's Bridges. We had done Number Corner 2 years ago. And then I know just talking to our own teachers, listening to them understand the teachers talking to, or the students talking to each other and engaging in the math like concept, but being able to like talk to each other about it versus it just being like paper and pencil and rote memorization. They're understanding the math concept. And I really think that was our big takeaway when we were in Mount Laurel.
Good. So they worked maybe in twos or groups a little bit, and that's been successful in the past in other places. Yeah, great.
Any other questions? I mean, we spent a lot of time on the state report card, specifically on elementary math. Any other questions?
It's the biggest area, really.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for all of your hard work and putting that together for us. All right. Next up, superintendent report. I'm sorry. School perceptions.
There you go. So I just have a timeline and survey update. Many of you know that today the window on the survey closes. What that means is that we're telling families to wrap it up if they and community members if they haven't taken it or mailed it. They need to finish up today and or mail it in the next day or two. They will continue to take anything that's been mailed in or taken and add it to our count. As of 2 o'clock today, there was over 1,600 taken in. Our goal, our high goal, continues to remain between 2,000 and 3,000. But I will tell you that at 1,600, that's more than 11% of the number of people who voted in the last spring election. And so they feel like that will give them a good polling of our general area already, right? And everything that they get now is just going to be continued more, icing on the cake, if you want to, put it that way, because we do have enough for us to be viable with the data that's going to come back because of the high level of count based on the number of people who actually voted in the last election and the comparability of that data. So they, of course, aren't going to give me any concrete direction, but they can say that the district will support something in the way of a referendum, so we don't have to worry about a large feedback saying, no, don't do anything, right? But they won't tell us yet what it is until they do that, but they can say that there was a good positive result back, meaning that our community wants to support something. They will get us more data as we go, but that's all I'm going to get until December 1st for you. So, but that's as much as they were able to and willing to release. And they certainly won't get into the rest of it until the numbers are really in. But good start of the poll of that survey data. And I think we're going to have actionable data to work with based on the numbers of completion. So everybody in the community who completed that, I want to thank them again. I will continue to say, I want to remind you that school perceptions, as they get the results in, right, they do use an algorithm that they've created to take a look at like who the respondent is. And so if you're connected to the school because you're a staff member or so on, or you're at one level, if you're a parent and have kids but you're not connected through a paycheck, that's a different level in the algorithm. And the highest amount that they rate on is somebody who's not connected, doesn't have kids or grandkids in, but is a taxpayer. And their survey counts a lot higher than the rest because they have done this algorithm that really seems to work. And again, they'll come back with sharing with us what that is, and hopefully that will be good, reliable data for us. Again, moving forward, they're going to continue to tabulate those surveys between now and December 1st. On December 1st, I have a check-in meeting with them in the morning to prepare for the evening. We're looking at a board meeting on December 1st. The response from you came back that the 1st was better than the 4th. And so you'll see in my superintendent report, it said tentative date. Well, that date has now been confirmed this afternoon based on your responses. So I appreciate that. We will have a special board meeting on the 1st of December to go through those results. At that point in time, if you would like to have me take action towards a resolution of some kind, we can certainly work towards that and have something ready for fiscal, or we can also have more communication and discussion at fiscal to put together a resolution. Quarles and Brady and Baird will help us do the calculation and everything for the mill rate. And Quarles and Brady will help us write the resolution, but they need at least 2 days to pull all of that together. But I talked with Mike at Baird by email today and said, I just want to make sure that we're continued to be scheduled and that you're ready for our data. And I should have an update either on December 2nd or shortly thereafter. And so we are on a tight timeline again. But I do want you to know we did build in that fail safe, not that I want to use it going into January. Our resolution by law doesn't have to be passed until January, towards the end of January. But I would love to have something as a resolution that we can pass at our next month's board meeting in December. And so hopefully it'll be a quick turnaround based off of the data we get back, and hopefully our data are clear and we have actionable data and we know which direction we want to take. Any questions about where we are or where we're going? That's the only update I have then.
That's your superintendent report?
No, that's no. I got a separate superintendent. Right. That's very next good on the list.
All right, superintendent report.
But I just wanted to know if there was anything else there. Okay, so here's my superintendent report for November. We've got the Lincoln STEM box projects that are going on at Lincoln. They do wonderful stuff. They've got this nice little cardboard cutter that the PTO over there bought for them. And the kids are using that to help cut out shapes and do what they need to do to put things together. My youngest son, Declan, he wants to be a rocket scientist, so he built a Declan rocket. That was wonderful. I thought it was pretty nice looking. Also, I want to share that Kim Schneider, is she still here? No. Oh, shoot. I was hoping that she would be able to stay through some of this. But I want to say a celebration that she, along with, excuse me, another teacher at Nicolet, Mark Wagner, were given or recognized by the Milwaukee chapter of DANC, the German American National Congress, for their efforts in promoting German language. Also, it talks about our network with Germans and our 20th anniversary celebration of the exchange program that we talked about earlier today. And so just the congratulations to Kim and then her colleague over at Nicolet, Mark Wagner, on their award. Excuse me.
I have a comment here.
I got water. So celebrations, Veterans Day was and is always a big thing that we celebrate here. We, not only did our vets get honored at the high school with a breakfast, where many dignitaries showed up from either Fitzgerald's office. Will Penterman was there. A number of our officials, our mayor was there, so on. I wanted to thank them, but They were given breakfast and a mail call, which were thank you cards written from our WUSD students. And that followed the ceremony. RMS always does a great Veterans Day performance there where the band plays, the orchestra and the choir sings, and they do a video tribute to all the veterans in the students' families that they put together pictures for, and then they have a guest speaker. And Schurz also treated their veterans to donuts, juice, and coffee, and had a heartfelt assembly as well. So congratulations and thank you again for putting on those ceremonies for our vets. I know that they truly appreciate it. Webster Elementary School also was awarded again this year the best elementary schools by U.S. News and World Report. They are now by their count at the 6% of elementary schools in Wisconsin, as produced by that report. They ranked 76th last year. They were 90th out of 1,200 elementary schools in the state. And so they have been getting better for the last 3 years on that ranking. Marginal, or not marginally, quite a distance each year for the last 3 years. So congratulations to Webster and their staff. We have an art show coming up for a student art showcase. That's this Wednesday on the 19th from 5 to 7 at the high school. It's a great event. If you've never been, please try to make it in your calendars. Community is invited to view the art and participate in free art activities. It's fun. So if you have grandkids or kids and you want to bring them along, it's a good time. Also, we have a Stuff the Bus event coming up for Stuff the Bus Essentials Drive. The event is being held Saturday, November 22nd. I know a couple of you are going to be working that event, so thank you, board members who are signed up to help work that event. But that's from 10 to 2 at the Benson Family Town Square. New clothing, non-perishable food items, and personal essentials are being collected. And I do want to share that we are not collecting footwear this year. So, sorry. Community survey, you heard already that as of today's update, we had 1,600 surveys completed. And please be sure if you haven't submitted them yet, you can still do it. Walk to the mailbox or click on that QR code over the next couple of days, finish it up, and we will certainly count those along with everyone else's. But they will bring that to a close as we get towards December 1st. And then there's some important reminders. No school coming up. The December 23rd is an early dismissal at 11:30. December 24th and January 2nd is winter break. And then in December, we have these committee and board meetings. Know that we have a special school board survey results meeting that said tentative on December 1st. It is now. We will have it that evening. So be looking at your calendars for that. But educational services there, policy, human resources, and planning are matching up on a head-to-head. Human resources first, and then planning and time after that. Our curriculum committee is newly formed curriculum committee is going to have their first kickoff meeting December 9th at 7:30 a.m. just to define the committee and its role and to get into a couple other things about the start of the human growth and development curriculum review and getting that piece going on. Julian Appling has been named the chair of that committee. So thank you, Craig Wortman, for pulling that together and putting a committee names and faces together. And then December 10th is fiscal management, as well as December 15th, regular board meeting. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Ed Services?
Ed Services, yeah. Sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead.
November 4th, Ed Services. There were several proposals for new courses at the high school in math, science, social studies, business, and foreign language. These courses will be up for vote tonight. They would fill a need in those departments and add much needed rigor. Elementary course guides were explained and will be up for a vote tonight. In a brief discussion of administrative guidelines to combat bullying, an action item result was to move information for parents to a more prominent position.
We discussed elementary literacy and Act 20 compliance. Phonics teaching will be emphasized. On future agendas, we will target the discussion of the curriculum committee and the possibility of introducing a classical curriculum and hopefully revisiting the securely process.
All right, any questions for the Ed Services report? All right, fiscal management.
Charlie, you or I? I'll take it.
Okay.
Everybody was, the meeting was on Wednesday, November 12th, and all members were present. And we had no public input. The agenda started with NUSLA. And thanks to Jason Bull, we'll go further into this discussion on NUSLA. It seemed like the committee wasn't too happy with NUSLA, and Jason is going to do some further work for us, and will be brought back in front of the meeting. Then we had the summer building projects. We had a walk through the high school. Stooks walked us through the building and grounds man, and the following was looked at. We had to add a special education bathroom, reconfigure health room, office spaces, and create better staff-student flow, restore multiple stall bathrooms in the west wing, reconfigure classrooms for family, consumer ed, art, tech, and special ed, possible adjust music area depending on grade level migration, and add ADA sidewalk upgrades, outdoor asphalt play areas. The committee will recommend a contract with Pluckett and Rasich Architects at 7% of project cost, which is estimated to be between $70,000 and $82,000 for design work. So basically all we're doing is buying the plans right now. It was noted that the drawings would be useful whether or not construction begins immediately. The project would be funded through Fund 46, a capital improvement, not general fund. The committee voted unanimously to advance the contract recommendations to the full board. So it was an interesting walkthrough, and I was convinced that these additions and reconfigurations were in the course of action that the board should take. Budget and referendum planning. We spent 20 minutes on it, and our superintendent just gave you pretty much of a rundown on all of that, except the budget. Monthly reports. There were several questions about purchases, which we're keeping a pretty close track of all these purchases. And up till now, I don't think the board can really review the amount of purchases that are being made monthly. Most of the time it's five and dime stuff, and we basically have to accept that as is. To audit that is almost impossible. So as long as you nickel and dime us, we're in fine shape. But if you go over $5,000, you're going to hear from us. Okay, future agenda planning. We got the NUSLA item that Jason's going to look into it for us. Referendum survey review, and discussion and possible contracting for a guaranteed maximum price contractor to manage possible summer projects. Action items. Jason will work on the NUSLA deal. Kevin Sukel will work towards identifying a GMP for us. And Dr. Burke will forward appropriate agenda items to the board and work on a survey update with school perceptions. Our next meeting will be December 10th. Any questions? Thank you.
All right.
All right, so we had our human resources meeting Monday, November 10th at the ESC. The first thing we did was go into closed session to discuss CPI for non-represented employees. And then we went back into open session at 7:15. I believe we also discussed some administrative retirement, right? And then we went back in open session at 7:15. Then we went over the consent agenda of the people entering and exiting the district. We moved to the employee handbook and there was no revisions made to it. Margaret was just presenting the revision from the previous month to move the timeline up so that the employee handbook could be taken care of prior to potential new board members getting on in April of 2026. Then we went over the substitute staff survey, which was well received by the substitute staff. My understanding is it would have been nicer if more people did the survey, but the responses we got were vastly improved from the year prior, so that's good. Then we went over the 2027-2028 calendar. There should be some things going out to staff members and the community to get feedback on how they would feel about going from a holiday to holiday calendar for the 2027-2028 school year before the board makes a determination if we are going to keep the way the calendar currently is or transition to a holiday to holiday calendar for the 2027-2028 school year. There was not much future planning, and our next meeting is going to be December 8th at 5:30 p.m. Then on Wednesday, November 5th was the planning committee meeting.
Was there any
Jason,
questions for HR?
oh, please go ahead. Questions, guys? We're good?
Hearing none.
All right, thanks. And then we had planning Wednesday, November 5th. Let me see. We started at 5:30 and Jason started with an update of their strategic plan, as well as budget communication updates, which led to a agenda item to have Jared look into communication quotes, correct?
Jason and I are, Jason's
Yes.
put it out there for
Oh, okay.
quotes.
Yep.
And he's getting some information back that we're reviewing.
Okay, and then Sam covered Robert's Rules of Order board development training that we had. Then we went into discussing the Board of Education communications, like the 60-second videos. My understanding is that the first one was recorded already, Craig, is that correct? Or
No,
not
we'll be
yet?
doing
Okay.
tomorrow.
So the first one will be done by Craig, the board president, and then it will be on a rotation for all board members who are available because we want it as close to the meetings as possible, right? So whatever board members available to do the 60-second meetings, then we went into possible referendum taglines. I believe we settled on two.
One and three.
Yeah, two that we're bringing that to the board. Then we moved into the 2-year strategic plan. Just an overview of how we felt like we were doing on the strategic plan. So in that meeting, we decided that instead of holding planning to January, we are going to have a planning meeting on December 8th after the HR, just to go over those communication quotes. I don't think that anything else is thoroughly added to that agenda quite yet, correct, Jason?
Agreed that we just think we bring some discussion around plans for advertising a possible referendum like December to April.
Okay.
Get some feedback and insights.
Okay. And that's it. Any questions?
One thing I would add would be that there was an email that was sent out regarding closed session regarding goal setting. I apologize, it did not make it to this agenda. I must have overlooked that, and we'll have to try to schedule another time for that opportunity. Thank you. All right. Policy, I know it didn't meet, but anything to add?
No, we are meeting this month, so if anyone has anything they'd like to see on the agenda, probably best to get it to me or Jared sometime this week. And then we'll see where we go from there.
It's going to be heavily focused on finishing up all of the updates from the start of the Neola process through this most recent update, which just came to us. So we're pretty much going to have those ready to rock and roll. And then, continue to move towards, administrative goal or guidelines. And as many of you know, Sarah Kelly has left us, and so I'm filling in as part of those duties. And so policy will be moving to Sarah Oudenhoven in January until we can get things resolved in that area of business, finance, and get somebody trained and on that role. That's one thing that's going to have to come off my plate. It's going to go to Sarah Oudenhoven to do that piece. So after December's meeting, if you have questions around policy, start aiming them towards Sarah Oudenhoven, and she'll be the one taking over in that until we get back to normalized administrative staff.
All right. And one other thing to add, as Jared had mentioned, the curriculum committee will be meeting December 9th at 7:30. Hopefully on the agenda, we'll be starting the discussion about the human growth and development and the selection process of that. Then also to select us standing date and time. Discuss a little bit of purview, and Julaine will be the chair. Dan, David, and Lori will also be committee members. Okay. This moves us along to the next order of business, being the consent agenda resolution 9437, which includes the minutes, the committee summaries, personnel and staffing report, the approval of bills, first and second reading of policy. Do I hear a motion?
I'll second.
Moved by Julaine, seconded by Tammy. Roll call vote, please.
Tammy Fournier,
Yes.
David Handyside,
Yes.
Lori Hoffman,
Yes.
Linda Oberbrunner,
Yes.
Sam Alenia,
Yes.
Carl Shorzy,
Yes.
Dan Voltner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes,
Julian Appling.
Yes.
and the motion carries. This brings us to resolution 9438, the June 2027 Germany Munich Heringen trip, as presented tonight. Do I hear a motion?
I'll second.
Moved by Sam, seconded by Tammy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution 9439, the 2025-2026 non-represented employees CPI adjustment. Whereas the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education, the board will provide a CPI adjustment to base wages to the following non-represented employees for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, and adjust the pay schedule accordingly for clerical staff, computer technicians, custodians and cleaners, executive assistants, food and nutrition services, instructional paraprofessionals, maintenance, nutrition services, production managers, education services, special education paraprofessionals, supervisors, truancy abatement officer. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education that the pay schedule and base wage for each non-represented employee will be increased by 2.7%, and each employee will advance one step on the pay schedule. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I think it was moved by Dan, seconded by Lori. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Tammy Fournier. Yes. David Handyside.
Yes.
Lori Hoffman.
Yes.
Linda Oberbrunner.
Yes.
Sam Oweniel.
Yes.
Carl Schwarzy.
Yes.
Dan Boltner.
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes,
Jelaine Epling.
Yes.
and the motion carries. Resolution 9440, whereas representatives of the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education, the board, and the United Lakewood Educators, Watertown, as the exclusive bargaining agent for employees in the certified staff bargaining unit, have been engaged in negotiating for the 2025-2026 collective bargaining agreement between the parties, and whereas the parties reached a 2025-2026 collective bargaining agreement between the board and the ULE, now therefore be it resolved, the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education, that the base wage for the bargaining unit members be increased by 2.7%. Do I hear a motion?
I'll second.
Moved by Jelaine, seconded by Tammy. Roll call vote, please.
Tammy Fournier.
Yes.
David Handyside.
Yes.
Lori Hoffman.
Yes.
Linda Oberbrunner.
Yes.
Sam Oweniel.
Yes.
Carl Schwarzy.
Yes.
Dan Boltner.
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Abstain,
Jelaine Epling.
Yes.
and the motion carries. Resolution 9441, the 2025-2026 administration CPI adjustment, whereas the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education will provide a CPI adjustment to the base wages to the following non-represented employees for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, and adjust the pay schedule accordingly. Administrators. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education that the pay schedule and base wage for each non-represented employee will be increased by 2.7%. Do I hear a motion? Moved by Linda, seconded by Lori. Roll call vote, please.
Tammy Fournier.
Yes.
David Handyside.
Yes.
Lori Hoffman.
Yes.
Linda Oberbrunner.
Yes.
Sam Oweniel.
Yes.
Carl Schwarzy.
Yes.
Dan Boltner.
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes,
Jelaine Epling.
Yes.
and the motion carries. Resolution 9441. I'm sorry, we just did that. Resolution 9442. Be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education approve the 2026 to 2027 high school program of studies, course additions, and updates as presented to the Educational Services Committee on November 4th of 2025. Do I hear a motion?
Moved.
Moved by Dan,
Second.
seconded by David. Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Tammy Fournier.
Yes.
David Handyside.
Yes.
Lori Hoffman.
Yes.
Linda Oberbrunner.
Yes.
Sam Oweniel.
Yes.
Carl Schwarzy.
Yes.
Dan Boltner.
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes,
Jelaine Epling.
Yes.
and the motion carries. Resolution 9443, be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education approve the elementary math curriculum course guides as presented to the Educational Services Committee on November 4th, 2025. Do I hear a motion? Moved by Linda, seconded by David. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Tammy Fournier.
Yes.
David Handyside.
Yes.
Lori Hoffman.
Yes.
Linda Oberbrunner.
Yes.
Sam Oweniel.
Yes.
Carl Schwarzy.
Yes.
Dan Boltner.
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes,
Jelaine Epling.
Yes.
The motion carries. Resolution 9444. Be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education enter into a contract with PRA Architectural Firm for the 2026 summer projects as discussed during the November fiscal committee meeting. Do I hear a motion? Moved by Lori, seconded by Julene. Any further discussion?
I have a question. When the contractors are working in the summer, is there occasion to work among the students? And if so, do they have background checks?
Yes, absolutely.
The work, all the workers do, okay. Yeah, I just didn't know who to ask or where.
Sure. Any other questions? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Tammy Fournier,
Yes.
David Handyside,
Yes.
Lori Hoffman,
Yes.
Linda Oberbrunner,
Yes.
Sam Allenio,
Yes.
Carl Schwarzy,
Yes.
Dan Voltner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman,
Yes,
Julene Appling.
Yes.
carried. Next order of business, future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items or future strategic discussion of the board? Well, I guess, again, you guys know where to find me. All right. Moving along, this is our second opportunity for public input. Same rules apply. Was there any interest in public input? Anybody online? Okay. Thank you very,
Can I make one comment?
yes, go ahead.
That I meant to make earlier, but huge kudos to Kevin for the tour, for the fiscal committee. That was extremely helpful on many levels, but being able to visualize what you're talking about from words to actually seeing it, was very helpful. So we appreciate that.
Thank you for that. All right. Pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data or any public employee over which governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and pursuant to the Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, deliberating or negotiating or purchasing of public properties, investing in the public funds, or conducting other specified public business, or whenever competitive bargaining reasons required a closed session, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, to enter into a closed session.
I'll second.
Moved by Sam and seconded by Tammy. Roll call vote, please.
Tammy Fournier,
Yes.
David Handyside,
Yes.
Lori Hoffman,
Yes.
Linda Oberbrunner,
Yes.
Sam Allenio,
Yes.
Carl Schwarzy,
Yes.
Dan Voltner,
Yeah.
Craig Wortman,
Yes,
Julene Appling.
Yes.
and the motion carries. We are entering into closed session. Was there does
I'm reading so many books right now. This was my
All
okay
right.
to bring to a board meeting book, Jared. So-
Well, we are now live. So we have one other piece of business here, and that is resolution 9445, the modification of administrator benefits. Be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education accept the modification of the administrative benefits as recommended during the November Human Resources Committee meeting. Is there a motion?
I move.
I'll second.
Moved by Dan, seconded by Tammy. Roll call vote, please.
Tammy Fournier, yes. David?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes,
Julian?
Yes.
carried. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Julene, seconded by David Handyside. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We stand adjourned.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate